is Hilton Sawitzsky, 71 years old. I've been in the furniture industry virtually since 1969. Actually started out when I left to go to Israel in 67. I was actually doing printing and I hated every minute of it. We were out, friends of mine were out on a Saturday night prior to war breaking out at a friend's house in Hilton, a chap by the name of Dennis Jacobson, and we were very good friends in that. So basically they were all King David boys, I wasn't. And then we all decided, no, we were going off to Israel. We wanted to go to Israel and serve as a volunteer while our brethren were up north, south, east and west and fighting a war. And that night, listening on the radio, it was only the radio, we didn't have TV in those days, we heard that war is imminent and going to break out probably on the Monday morning, which it actually did. We knew that the Zionist Fed had sent out a call, which was basically, we knew that we had to go to the Fed, which was in near the drill hall in those days, and we went down to the Fed, and it was just packed. It was actually packed. And out of that, they started their who could go, who couldn't go, which men would go, and how they would fill up the planes and whatever you did. What actually happened is that eventually they sifted us all out and said, okay, we've got to wait. Once war is finished, we'll start sending the planes out, which we were all excited about. You know, it's an adventure, and off we're going. And it started out on the Sunday that the medicals were being taken, because in those days you had to have a medical to go overseas. I wasn't allowed to go because of me being a male from a single parent. My mother had passed away, and it was difficult, but I wanted to. I had a feeling for Israel, and I always wanted to go and always been a Zionist. My late mom was a very staunch Zionist. There was no call, because a basic call like radio or anything. We just heard through various people that there will be a call for us to go to Israel and volunteer. There just wasn't that type of connection, you know. There wasn't social media, what we've got today, and that you could send it out in 2 seconds. So it took time for them to mobilize and get us together, but I'd say within about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, we were basically on our way. And to get to Israel was also exciting, because we had to fly around the bulge. I mean, it took 24 hours to get there. We sat in Athens airport for 6 hours waiting for a connection to come from America. It didn't come from Europe, but came from America. And that was a bit exciting, because we heard of TWA and everybody was humming and hawing, and what a plane we're going on. It was a normal plane. I arrived in Israel, I left on a Tuesday night, so I arrived on the Wednesday. As I say, it was a tiring journey going around. I can remember looking out on the TWA plane out to sea, and you couldn't see the land over there. And it landed at Lod Airport, which was like hangars at the time. It really was. It was, you can imagine, it just wasn't there. And there were 2 things that we had to do. The head of the contingent, and Madrich, he was actually a guy from Rhodesia, and he said to us, okay, we sat down, and they walked up and down, and we were sitting at long tables, and it was at night, already getting into night. And the guy said to us, well, you better eat. I said, but, I called him over, I said, well, where's the meat? He said, no, there's no meat. Don't forget about meat. You don't get heavy meals in Israel. It's hot. You have a meat meal or a chicken meal maybe at lunchtime, but breakfast and supper is light. You just eat, you make your own sandwiches and whatever you want to do. And we slept in the barracks that night, and the next morning the buses came to take us to the various places where we were going to stay. As I say, I was taken to a moshav, which was more or less going up north in the center of Israel, and it was the main road that we used to have to walk down to get to and catch the bus if we were going to Tel Aviv, was in between Haifa and Afula. And that was the main road that the tanks and everything went along to take Jordan. They took Jordan from the top and came down. And then they told us what we're going to do. I was assigned to a family. Obviously, I couldn't speak Hebrew, but eventually it broke through. And I started with broken Hebrew, broken English to speak to them. And they gave me a family on the Moshav that they came from, the father came from Hungary. He couldn't speak a word of English. And the daughter could speak English. The son, who was a youngster, couldn't speak English. So it was like a bit daunting, but we made do, and we worked in the fields every day. And we came off the fields, had a shower, had brinjal that was fried, and, you know, simple food, but it was exciting. It was lovely to just eat and everything that we had to do. There was 800 of us that went over a period of time that arrived in Israel as volunteers. On our kibbutz, there must have been about, on the Moshav, about 20 or 25 of us from South Africa. There were from other countries also that came, and especially when we left the Moshav and wanted to go and serve on a kibbutz. And we went to one of the American kibbutzes, which was near Caesarea, was kibbutz Magan Michael, which was unbelievable. It was really an upmarket kibbutz, and I served with, was there for quite some time on that kibbutz. And we were taken around by the madrichim that were there to various dues, various meetings of different people, and it was just I felt, you know, it was something else. I felt I was back at camp, because that's how camp was, and we just enjoyed. We went down south. We were taken to Eilat. We were taken in the Sinai, well, not in the Sinai Peninsula, but we were taken there. We went to the Dead Sea, and they just looked after us. Obviously, their intention was to make as many people that would stay and make Aliyah. As volunteers, we were taken up to, we went up north, we went through Haifa, we went to the Golan Heights. That was exciting, because we got up to the Golan Heights, and which was right on the Syrian border, and the trenches were still there. So much so that it was about a month after we'd actually been in Israel. We weren't allowed to touch anything over there, but, you know, being South Africans, you've got to touch and feel. And I saw bodies there that from the sun were burnt, half bodies, dead bodies obviously in the trenches. We saw the trenches, how it actually went back all the way to Damascus. Another highlight that I saw just came back to me. We used to go to the Zionist Fed virtually every Friday. Because what used to happen is the newspapers, or the Sunday Times in those days, and the Daily Mail used to all come in to the Zionist Fed, which was a month later. We got our papers. And we were sitting over there. I was sitting on the wall over there. It was Friday afternoon. We didn't know what we were going to do, where we were going to stay. And we decided that who comes walking out of the hotel is Moshe Dayan. There he is. Why? Because that particular hotel, small little hotel there, opposite the Zionist Fed, that's where he had his headquarters and his meetings and everything. I had to serve a term of office for a year. That's sort of basically we signed up. And as it was coming to the end, I was sad. I was trepidation that I was going back home, going back to South Africa. And hindsight, I'd say I made a bit of a mistake over there. I wanted to stay on. I went and I signed up at that, and when I was there and wrote a letter to my late mom's sister, she said, no, you've got a sister here in South Africa. She's an only child. You can't, you know, both of us are only. We've got to stay together. You've got to carry on and live your life in South Africa, which we have. The experience changed me in that I learned how to stand on my own 2 feet very quickly. And I didn't need people around me. I could do things by myself. I was 18 years old when I left to go to Israel as a volunteer and came back at 20. It was just, I remember I was about 6 months prior to my 21st birthday that I actually got back. Coming back from serving there for over a year and that, I felt sad. I felt sad here. I was excited to see all my friends. As I say, they had a surprise party for me when I got back. But it was sad. I didn't want to come back. Today, when I've been back a couple of times, it took me about 17 years before the next time that I went. And you see how a country can grow so quickly. And it's unbelievable what they've actually done, and technology, and being a small little country like that it's unheard of. It actually is unheard of. They developed whatever had to be developed, and very, very quickly, because they needed to develop. So much so that when we went up to Syria, there was a kibbutz on the border there called Daphna, and over there, right on that kibbutz, that was green, all the way up to the actual border. And the Arab side in Syria and everything was desolate. There was nothing there was growing. They come out of a war-torn country. 6 million of us were killed, and here again they built it up in a couple of years. They were determined, and that's what it is today. And I don't believe that we must let it go ever again. It was really exciting, and I was very, very fortunate to be there during those times. You know, it's something that has stuck with me for the rest of my life.